Hello, students and parents of the class of 2021. Welcome to your senior year. Welcome to senior college night. We are excited and happy that you have decided to spend a little time with us. We are all going to introduce ourselves as we do different pieces of the presentation tonight. I'm going to get to start. My name is Laura Hall. I am the director of college counseling, and I work with students at the end of the alphabet, letters SI through Z for the senior class. Tonight we are going to go into a few things, a lot of things, as you're kind of navigating your senior year and trying to get on with what you need to do for your college applications. So we're going to start with a little perspective. We're going to move into senior conferences, application timeline and deadlines, the different types of applications, standardized testing, recommendations, visits and virtual visits, college fairs, athletics, financial aid, COVID updates and survey responses. So we've got a lot on the agenda, but we are really excited to get into some of this content and really kind of dig deeper with all of you as to how admissions will go in 2020, 2021. So let's start with just maybe a breath and breathe together. You've heard it time and time again. This is a different year. This is a different start. This is not maybe how we pictured or imagined your senior year to be starting, but let's just take a moment to recognize who we are, where we are, and that we're in this together. As we move forward throughout this year, we want you to know that college counseling is committed to an individualized counseling approach. So while tonight this information is being delivered to the masses, to all of you in the class of 2021, we are not backing down on the specifics and the very individualized and the very personal things that are going on with each of you in your college applications and the needs that you have as it relates to those college applications or whatever your plans might be for after you leave Regis Jesuit. We are putting senior meetings at the priority. We have been maximizing the limited non-class time that has been given to us to meet with students. And we have all sent out an email to our alphabets to have you as seniors schedule your senior meetings with us. We want to sit down and really kind of get that head start and get that first conversation of where did we leave off last spring, what's kind of happened over the summer, and where can we move and where can we help from here into your senior year. Each of us in college counseling has extensive admissions experience. We have served at the executive level of professional and admissions organizations. We're members of National Association for College Admissions Counseling, Rocky Mountain Association of College Admissions Counseling. We have credentials, but really what I most want you to know about us is that we care about your students and we care about their futures. So all of those credentials aside, I'm really proud to work on this team. I'm really proud to work with these people who you're going to hear from tonight. And I'm really excited that we have the opportunity to get to know and work with all of you as well. So let's talk a little bit about our past classes, where they have gone, just a little history as to what has happened with our students. Last year we had in the Boys and Girls Division together, students attend 136 different colleges in 39 different states. 61% went out of state, 39% stayed in state, 54% went to public universities, 46% went to private universities, and 27% of our class of 2020 went on to Catholic colleges and universities. And we're also sharing the top 5, and this is by number of students who attended. So for 2020, we have CU Boulder, CSU, very commonly our number 1 and number 2. For number 3, Creighton and Notre Dame both had 11 students from the class of 2020. University of Arizona had 9 students. Boston College, Regis, and University of Kansas, we sent 8 students to each of those universities. And just to provide a little more background and a little bit more information, we also wanted to share the class before that. So our 2019 Regis Jesuit grads, their top 5 were CU and CSU at number 1 and 2. Creighton still at number 3 with 15 students in 2019. Number 4 was CU Denver, Oklahoma, University of Oklahoma, and Texas Christian University, 7 students at each of those schools, and also Alabama and Gonzaga with 6 students each to those schools. So we have a long history of sending students everywhere. Trends change, preferences change, situations change. There's lots of different factors that go into the process and go into ultimately where our students decide to go to college. You're going to hear a lot more about that as we continue with the presentation, but I just thought it was fun and interesting to kind of give you a look back as to what our class of 2019 and 2020 have done. And then this is the map that we currently have to represent all of the schools. I think sometimes at Regis Jesuit we get a little caught up in certain schools or specific named schools, or kind of we get a little into a track. So I just wanted to celebrate, and we always want to celebrate all of our students, all of their choices, whatever school that is, if it's a 2-year college, if it's a gap year, if it's not college at all. So there's lots of really exciting things that our students are doing after they leave Regis Jesuit, and we are here to support and celebrate all of those different options. So take a little bit of time. We're going to ask you to take a little bit of time in this senior year, students, to reflect on academic fit. How will you be challenged and provided with opportunities to develop new skills? The social fit of the university that you're looking at. Will your classmates share similar values, outlooks, beliefs, and weekend activities? Spiritual fit. Has a Jesuit environment been important to you? Do you want to continue to learn and grow in an environment that provides those opportunities for you? And then financial fit is also important. So considering all 4 years of college when you're looking at financial fit, and again, we're going to have a lot more information to come in this presentation to kind of flush these out a little bit more. And also just know that as a college counseling team, I've said it, we care about you, we care about your students. Cura Personalis that's us, and that's you. And so we want you to really be thinking about, your learning and maturing, finding an appropriate, satisfying career path, finding a good job, becoming successful, being happy, care of the whole person, you taking care of your whole person, and we're going to do the best that we can do to take care of your whole person. So think about those values that are important to you, the colleges that you're looking at, do they support those values? And then discernment, we want you to spend some time really thinking about this, praying about this. It's not about putting a bunch of schools on a list and just sending out a bunch of applications. We really want you to take the time to think about and to really get into the heart of who you are, and where you want to be. I will be back with you toward the end of the presentation, but I want to turn it over to my colleague, Mr. Mike Delaney, who is going to take the next part.
All right, hello everyone. I'm Mr. Delaney. I'll be working with HO through the end of M in this class of 2021. And I just want to talk about kind of what we're doing this fall. Fall in the college process for seniors is pretty busy. We've got the timeline up here, just kind of showing what to expect the next 3 or 4 months. We'll talk about meeting with your college counselor and rec letters in just a moment. Just kind of be aware of deadlines. In general, we're going to recommend applying in the fall. There's some nuance to that. There's some strategy for the really competitive schools, but there's some great benefits to hitting the early action deadlines You should never have a deadline before October 15th. Those are the earliest deadlines we know of, and those are pretty rare just for a few schools in the South. November 1st, November 15th, November 30th, and December 1st are very common deadlines. So just when you meet with your counselor for your senior conference, which I'll skip to here, that's one of the many things we'll talk about. The senior conference, the idea behind it is, okay, how was summer? What changed on your list? How's your list looking? Do you feel confident in it? We still have time to mold and grow that list if you would like. But otherwise, it's getting down to, okay, those deadlines are looming. How can we help with the different pieces of the application? And so I'm going to go through some of those pieces today. But basically, seniors, sign up for your senior conference. We sent an email last Thursday. We will send reminders. We're being as flexible as we can with a somewhat limited schedule, but we can do virtual Teams meetings. We can do in-person meetings on days we're both on campus, and we're here to help you in whatever way we can. Applications include a few different pieces. So we want to kind of break down the different responsibilities in this process. And in our email last week, we included a college application guide that looks like a lot of information and definitely is, but puts all of this information, the step-by-step process in one place. Students are responsible, obviously, for the applications. We are here in support of anything you don't know how to answer or any advice you need when filling out those applications, but obviously you ultimately submit them. Most students are on the Common Application. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of popular, really good schools are on the Common App, but there are a few different other application types, and they're all pretty similar. Don't let any one application type keep you from applying to a school. Students are also responsible for test scores. We'll talk a little more about test scores and the nuances of that in a second, but if a school requires test scores and you are submitting them, you would go through either your ACT account or through the College Board for the SAT. College counselors will help you. We submit transcripts if a school needs an official transcript, which most do. We just ask you to let us know when you apply, usually just through a quick email. Hey, Mr. Delaney, I applied to school A, B, and C, and I will the very next day when I see that send off the transcripts, and my colleagues as well. We will deliver teacher and counselor recs to the universities that need them, as well as any school forms and a school profile, making sure that these different colleges and universities are familiar with what we do and what we offer at Regis Jesuit. The essays are going to be an important part of this piece. We can offer a ton of help in the essays. We're always happy to brainstorm with students, to look over rough drafts, to really work with you through these. We want you to take your time on them and be thoughtful with these essays. They're really important, especially this year with test scores maybe being not as important to schools or not as available to students across the country. Those are being de-emphasized a bit. So they're really going to look at what you have to say in your essays. Rarely do you get a chance for an interview. If you do, we can help prep you for that, no problem. But most schools don't have time to interview everybody, and so your one chance to speak up for yourself and tell your story in this process is usually through these college essays and supplements. We want you to let them know what you're about, what you value, what your worldview is. They're going to know academic information on you based off transcripts, test scores, teacher rec letters. So this is your chance to show beyond that. I would be a great classmate. I would be a great roommate on campus. I'm interested in some new things and just kind of sharing your story with these schools. It's easier said than done. We know this can be intimidating. Please reach out to your college counselor to start chatting about those essays if you're concerned about them. Supplements are essays for one particular college, and so those can be just as important, if not more important, than the regular kind of main essay that you would write for the Common App. Be aware, a lot of schools have, these really range, but one you'll see a lot is, why us? Why did you apply to our school? Why do you want to go to our school? And sometimes these are short essays, 150, 250 words, but they're really going to pay attention to them and see what you have to say. See that you're serious about this and have done your research into your school. We are happy to help proofread and work with you to really perfect these and get some good points for both admissions and scholarships on them. We will also handle recommendations. We are happy to write a counselor recommendation for any student in our case list. It's kind of a holistic view of the applicant, the context of the school. We can kind of talk about any extenuating circumstances that you think you want colleges to keep in mind when they're making their decisions. We'll advocate for you on those items and really just illuminate how you'll contribute to the university, your personality, your potential. And an added element to that this year will be just kind of how our school approached COVID, and we will certainly advocate for you guys for any differences in grades that might have come about because of this unique situation. The teacher recommendation, not every school requires a counselor recommendation, not every school requires a teacher recommendation, but most that our students apply to, including CU and CSU, would like at least one teacher recommendation. These are more to highlight, how you are in a classroom. What's your participation style? Presentation style, the reading assignments you've done. They're really trying to get a full look at what you're like in an academic classroom. How do you contribute? The resiliency you show, whether from one class to the end of it or with this online learning component. Teachers do a really good job with these teacher recommendations, and you'll just want to start thinking right now about one or two teachers to ask in this process. We have a slightly new system just to try to cut down on paper during COVID. We will send an email to both a student and teacher. Once a student confirms who's writing their letter with us, we will take the next step of the process, just give you a few questions as a student to answer to really just help your teacher kind of recall what you were like in their class, what you valued about their class, and write a fulfilling letter that will really give these colleges a lot of insight into you. We're asking that you request these from your teachers by Friday, September 11th. So you still have a few weeks here to request from a teacher. The idea is to give them about a month before any major deadlines come up to complete their recommendations. We really want to try to limit unnecessary letters. Colleges rarely read stuff that they did not ask for, and most schools only need one teacher letter of recommendation. Some of the Ivy Leagues, some of the service academies need 2 or 3, but for the most part, you should just be thinking about one teacher, core subject, English, math, science, social studies, but foreign language, theology, a lot of the academic related, engineering, some of those electives. All of those could work. It should ideally be a recent teacher, so junior year is perfect for that, or senior year if maybe you've had them in some capacity in the past. And just keep in mind how much work these teachers do in this process. We're lucky to have them. They write these from home on their own time, and it can take a lot of work and energy to write these. So be thoughtful, be thankful for them, and they really, really do an excellent job. So I will turn it over to Miss Huggins, who is up next.
Hi there, I'm Miss Huggins and I work with students A through C. I'm going to talk about standardized testing, which is something a lot of you probably have questions about, and probably one of the things that we've heard from most students about this summer. So standardized testing is definitely a big issue right now. Most of you know that most schools are going test optional this year. Some of those schools have even already extended test optional through 2023. This is going to be something that changes daily, we think, over the next year. And so we will definitely keep you abreast to new information that we receive. But just know that most schools who are going test optional genuinely want you to be safe, and they don't want you to go out and take another test if that means that you're putting yourself at risk. So all of you were able to take, or most all of you were able to take an ACT this spring. If you feel comfortable with your test and or you've had an opportunity to take another test and want to send those in, great. But if you do not feel comfortable with the test score you received, or you weren't able to take the test here in February, you will most likely not even have to worry about that at all. So most test optional schools are not basing their admissions decisions on scholarship, or excuse me, on their admissions decisions on test scores, but they're also now starting to come out and say lots of scholarship opportunities will still be available for students even if they do not submit test scores. That's going to be specific to each school, and that's something, again, that you'd want to talk with your college counselor about. Subject tests are tests that generally are only required by certain schools, and most of those schools are offering those just as optional this year as well. So if you have not taken a subject test yet and you can't, then don't worry about that piece, okay? Also discuss test score submission with your college counselor. So we are here to help you with this. So if you have questions about, well, these are my list of schools, this is my test score, should I or should I not submit my scores, we can help you with that. So Mr. Delaney talked about different application types, and I wanted to go over those with you briefly. And you've probably heard these terms before. I know we've talked about them in some of our meetings, but we just want to go over these again so that you feel really clear about the different options and deadlines available to you. So early decision is the binding agreement. Early decision means that if you get in, you are agreeing to go to this school. So the process for early decision is that you, your parents, and one of us as your college counselor sign the early decision agreement prior to you submitting the application. And again, if you are accepted to that particular college, you are agreeing to attend that school. So early decision can be a strategy, but only if it is genuinely a school that you want to attend, and then you know that you will attend if you get in. Early action, however, is just an earlier time to apply. It's non-binding. Often scholarships are associated with this early action deadline. The earlier you apply, the earlier you receive a decision back, and it's nice to know before winter break if you've been accepted to a school. So early action is probably for most of you going to be the application type that you choose. And sometimes for certain colleges, they'll only have an early decision deadline or a regular decision deadline. Also, if you wanted a college to see your first semester grades before your application would be reviewed, regular decision can also make sense. Some schools are on a rolling deadline, which means that they will read applications and give decisions as applications come in. So if a school has a rolling admission deadline, just know that if you apply early, you will receive a decision back earlier, which is also really nice. If you have questions about these in regards to your own list, please let us know. We're happy to help kind of guide you through this. All right. So a little bit more about application due dates. So we would like to know at least 2 weeks in advance when you are going to be submitting an application so that we can make sure that we can submit all of your documents in a timely fashion as well. So example of early action deadlines. Mr. Delaney mentioned this already, but October 15th is the earliest deadline that you will see. And not very many schools will have an October 15th deadline. November 1st is a very popular early action deadline. So if you're trying to plan your fall and thinking about your schedule and when you want to have everything completed, November 1st is usually a good time to sort of set in your mind as when some or most of your applications should be complete. November 15th is another early action deadline. It's CU Boulder's early action deadline. And CSU's early action deadline is December 1st. There are lots of colleges that also have December 1st early action deadline. And we've even seen some schools bump their early action deadline to December 1st this year. So there may be some grace given in terms of deadlines. Those might be pushed back a little bit more. But again, you'll want to check the college websites, talk with us about the best time to apply to your schools. Also, you'll see at the bottom here, Colorado has a free application day for all Colorado schools. So October 13th is the day this year. And that means if you submit your application to a school in Colorado on October 13th, your application fee will be waived, which is really nice. That does not mean all of the rest of your application pieces need to be in. The letters of recommendation and transcript and all of that still have the early action deadline of, for instance, CU November 15th, CSU December 1st, but your fee for the application will be waived if you submit your application on October 13th to Colorado colleges. For January deadlines, some schools will have regular deadlines of January 1st or January 7th. Please let us know that you're going to be applying to those schools or confirm with us so that we can send your documentation, your transcript, letters of recommendation to those colleges before winter break. So these seem obvious, but why do we need to know that? So winter break, service projects, scholarship deadlines, finals, those are all things that we kind of are managing and thinking about for you all. And so the more information that you can give to us, the better we can help you in this process. But remember, please give us at least 2 weeks prior to submitting an application so that we know where we need to send your documents. All right, I'm going to pass this over to Ms. Macholik.
Hi, seniors. Thanks for joining us this evening or today. My name is Carrie Macholik, Mrs. Macholik, and I work with seniors N, last names N through SH. And we're so excited to be talking to you and spending time with you today. Okay, let's talk about your college contacts. So unfortunately, as you all know, it is a unique year, and we are not able to host any of the college admissions counselors or college representatives on Regis Jesuit's campus. So what we're really encouraging you all to do, if you haven't already, is participate in any sort of virtual options that you can find in the colleges that you're interested in. There are virtual visits, campus tours, panels, and then there are conversations with your admissions counselors, and we think that that is a really important place to start to build that relationship with the colleges that you're most excited about. So sign up for those. I'm going to talk about those opportunities on the next slide, but sign up for those virtual options. And then we also want you to get to know your admissions contact, your admissions counselor, admissions representative. And you can do that by Googling the name of your school and getting on the admissions page, and usually they will list your counselor, and they oftentimes will list them by territory as well. So you'll look for your Colorado school, and then you'll find your admissions counselor, and usually it'll be an email, sometimes it'll be a phone number, but it's a really good way to get to know your admissions representative. Oftentimes your admissions representative is also the first person that gets to take a look at your application, and oftentimes they are also your advocate. So if they really think that you're a great fit for the college or the university, they will advocate for you. And we all come from the admissions side with each of us has over 10 years of experience on the admissions side at very different colleges, and that is just such an enjoyable part of that position, is getting to know your students, and you really do get to know your high school students that apply to the college. So we really recommend getting to know your admissions counselor. Also, I know I said you can Google it, you can find it on the admissions page, but they are listed in Naviance as well, and we can show you that during your senior meeting. All right, so here's some of those virtual events that we want you guys to attend. I'm sure a lot of you attended several of the events last spring. Some colleges are still doing campus tours, actual campus tours or campus visits in person, but most are doing virtual options. And so we want you guys to take advantage of these. Last spring, they had the Greater College Fairs, or the College Fairs of Greater Denver. They actually hosted virtual programming to more than 180,000 students across the country, and with over 500 colleges and universities represented. So make sure you guys are checking out these opportunities. They are available through NACAC is that top one, the National Association of College Admission Counseling. They have a great website. It's very easy to navigate and sign up for these events. And you can search by school on there. They have different programming. Some of them are just information sessions, but there are other opportunities to meet with financial aid or meet students. And same with the College Fairs of Greater Denver. Oftentimes they'll do an online presentation or an information session, but those will also include virtual chats. So it's a great way for you to ask your questions during that presentation. Same with Colorado Council Virtual College Week. Check that out. More details to come on that, but you guys should get signed up for that. And then lastly, the Jesuit Excellence Tour, the JET, those were just announced recently, so we will have links for you in the future, but here's the dates, tentative dates for those. And so there are 27 Jesuit colleges and universities. Usually at least about 20 of them, if not more, participate in the JET. Especially if it's online. We're hoping to see a big showing of the Jesuit schools there. So definitely sign up for those. It's, again, a great way to meet your admissions counselor and get more information and learn more about those opportunities at those schools. And then, like I mentioned, you can still get on some campuses, right? So you can still do some actual visits. And who knows, the climate is constantly changing. I don't know what it'll look like next month. I don't know what it will look like in the spring, but continue to check those websites out, and usually it'll just be the name of the college and then a campus visit or a visit page. And this is what we recommend. Some schools they have a really robust virtual programming. So if you can't get on their campus, they are doing a great job offering virtual programming, and it's not just information sessions. So we've seen a lot of colleges that are offering one-on-one conversations with your admissions counselor, so sign up for that. You have opportunities to meet with professors. Some of them are doing one-on-one professor conversations. Some of them are doing professor panels. Same with current student conversations, again, one-on-one or student panels. And then, of course, like I mentioned, the information sessions and the webinars are always available. They have really done a great job with their campus tours virtually. And I know it is not, ideal to do a virtual visit versus an on-campus visit, but it's still a really great way to assess the fit and see if that feels like the right fit for you, if you can see yourself talking to that professor in the classroom, if you can see yourself being friends with those students. So definitely try to sign up for those and take advantage of those opportunities. I'm now going to pass it over to Mrs. Crabshaw.
Hello, seniors. My name is Mrs. Cropshaw, and I work with students D through HI, and I'm happy to be here to help kind of move on to the next component of our presentation. And one thing that comes up in the college admissions process for some students is the NCAA recruiting process. So for students who are looking to participate in a sport at an NCAA institution, one of the most important things, if you have not done so already, is to register through the NCAA Eligibility Center. And we do have the website listed there. This is a portal essentially that gives permission and allows coaches and students to be in touch with each other while following all of the different NCAA regulations. There's documents that are submitted through there as well, including your transcripts. And so we really want to make sure if coaches are in touch with you and you need your transcript, please let Mrs. Stanford in the College Counseling Center know via email. You can email your individual college counselor as well, and we can kind of help facilitate that to make that happen. And just know that, as we've said with a lot of things this year, there is some uncertainty, especially with timelines, scholarship availability, space availability on teams. So there's a lot of maybe question marks of what may be available or what options students might have for sports. And we really just want to remind you that you, the student, have the potential to, or have the possibility to reach out to coaches. There is not a limitation in how often you can reach out to a coach. So we want you to be asking those coaches questions directly. And sometimes it's the head coach himself. A lot of times it's a recruiting coordinator or maybe someone in the front office of an athletic department, or even depending on the sport, it could be a position coach. So as coaches have communicated with you, or if you have a contact at a school, go ahead and feel free to reach out to them and keep that conversation open so you feel like you have all the information that you can get from those different teams. Oops, sorry, my slide's not changing. There we go. Another big topic is financial aid. And this is a very large component and often comes with a lot of questions through that college search process. So we do actually have our own financial aid night. Obviously look a little bit different compared to past years, but for now that's tentatively scheduled for Wednesday, October 7th. We'll be communicating more information about that night prior to that date, so stay tuned for that. But just some things to be aware of now that you could start to look into, or at least information gather right now, is that if a college is going to award you any financial aid, you will need to file the FAFSA, and that's the free application for federal student aid. It is a free application, so you should not be paying to complete the FAFSA. Oddly enough, there are some websites out there that try to charge people to fill out the FAFSA. Do not use those. But you'll want to fill that out, but you technically can't start to do that yet. It opens October 1st for your senior class, just at the website we've listed there, so fafsa.ed.gov, and you can go there and fill it out. The website is available now and you can look through information, and that might be helpful to do just to kind of familiarize yourself with the process. And then again, you can start to fill it out starting October 1st. Every college has a different financial aid timeline. So there isn't one overarching deadline for financial aid documents or the FAFSA to be submitted. So that's something you're really going to want to pay attention to on each of your college's timelines. So as you apply to a college or as you're communicating with the admissions representatives, make sure you're looking for that date of what is the deadline for your FAFSA to be filed at that institution. You fill out the FAFSA once and then you indicate which colleges you want to send it to. So you're just going to want to make sure you get the information to those colleges within their time frame. Another component of financial aid that some schools use, not all, is the CSS profile. And this is actually a form or documentation that you fill out through the College Board website. So if you're not sure where to find it, honestly, you can just Google CSS profile, or you can look on the College Board website. And this is another form or thing you'll be able to fill out starting October 1st. So this usually accompanies the information on your FAFSA. So you'll see maybe on like your school's checklist when you apply if that is something they need. And again, you'll want to be aware of what their deadlines are for you to submit that information. So again, you can find your school's specific financial aid requirements oftentimes linked from the college's website, but also from just their financial aid pages as well. And if you're not sure where to look for that, again, this is a great topic of conversation to reach out to your admissions representative. Along with financial aid, another big cost question that comes up is scholarships. And scholarships come in so many different ways, and the process can be very, very different at each school. So again, this is something that is a great point of conversation with an admissions contact, but also something that you can see on schools' websites. So what you may be able to determine is if your initial application for admissions is all you'll need to do, or if there's a separate scholarship application. So that does vary. Some colleges just use the admissions information. Some colleges, once you submit that application, then they'll follow up with a separate scholarship application that you have to complete. So I'm going to jump to the bottom bullet point right now where it says read your email. That is very, very, very important. When you fill out the application, whether it's Common App, this institution's own application, Coalition app, whatever it is, the email that you put on that application is the email that these colleges are going to be communicating with you at. So if they do have a separate scholarship application or something additional that they want you to complete, they're going to send that to your email. So make sure you're checking that. If you used your RJ email and already submitted an application, not a problem. Just make sure you check your junk folder, because sometimes college emails can get filtered into that. But check your junk folder too with any email you use. We recommend that maybe using like a Gmail or Yahoo or something like that might be a little more beneficial, a little less junk email issues there, but just be checking that in case there is a communication that's coming from your college that's about not only scholarships but anything else really. There are some resources that we've listed here that you can use for scholarship searches. It includes Naviance. So a lot of times we have outside organizations that have opportunities available for students maybe that are interested in certain majors or have a certain background or experience, and you can find that information on Naviance and then complete the application through that organization itself. That's also kind of how these other websites work, petersons.com, fastweb.com, and scholarships.com. On each of these sites, you can set up a profile where you can indicate all sorts of information about yourself, upload resumes, things like that. And by doing that, the search engines within these sites will look for scholarships that match up with characteristics that you have. And they'll indicate either in an email or in a portal saying, here's some scholarships or here's some opportunities that you should be applying for. And so take some time to fill these out and take some time to be reading the portal information or emails that you're getting, because these are all sorts of different individualized organizations that you can get scholarships from that are generally able to be used at any institution. So as you have time, I know there's a lot of things on these different checklists, but go ahead and start to set up profiles on these different websites. And last but not least, well, not last, but we did want to make sure you all knew that we took some time to filter through your survey questions. We thank you so much for filling that out, because that really helps us shape this presentation. There's information that we are giving to students and families year to year, but as we've said 20 times already, we know this is a different year, so we wanted to make sure we understood where your thoughts, concerns, or questions really lied. So we actually had more than 250 responses to our survey, so again, thank you so much for helping to build this. And we just wanted to follow up with questions that we kind of started to see themes, and we've outlined them here. We also covered some of the information in the presentation, but we also know that some of them may be very individualized, or maybe a more personal response would be better. So college counselors will be responding to the questions that we received in the survey that maybe weren't covered in this presentation. And then I also want to remind you, we will have our upcoming Q&A sessions with information, dates, and times to come. But that would be a good time, if you have a question after this survey, after this presentation, or maybe you didn't put on the survey, you can ask those at those times too. So I'm going to tackle some of these, and then as always, we're open to questions all the time, so feel free to reach out to us. But one of the first questions we got was about kind of the COVID hitting towards the end of last year, and students in the class of 2020 may be considering deferments, meaning they chose to let the colleges where they were planning on going to know that they weren't going to enroll this last fall, but maybe we're going to enroll in the fall of 2021. So there's some concern out there that, by the students of the class of 2020 doing that, is that affecting me as a member of the class of 2021? And so we actually posed that question to several different colleges from different areas, different types of schools, and the overwhelming response was that there may have been a slight increase in deferments requested, but the perception of the amount of those and how that is affecting the class of 2021 is a much bigger kind of perception question than it is the actual reality. So a lot of colleges are not seeing that will affect the spaces they have for students in the class of 2021. So we definitely wanted to help alleviate that concern. Another question is, hey, I've been getting all these invitations to apply to colleges for free. They're giving me a free application. You've got the Pioneer application, the Golden application. Should I fill it out? And that is totally up to you. Who doesn't love something free, right? But if we would strongly suggest only fill it out if that college is of interest to you. It does take time to do all of that, and it does take a college's admissions office time to review that. So if you're not really considering the school, just because it's free might not necessarily be a reason to fill out the application. Next question was, how are AP exam scores used by colleges or universities for placement and college credits? That's going to be like a lot of things in this process, and it varies. Some colleges may use AP exams for placement into certain classes, or they might even give you credit based on a certain score. And so if a college does that, generally they have a pretty upfront grid or page on their website that shows how they do that. So you may be able to find that information there. Or if they don't, just know that they might not use it, but you have the benefit of having that strong AP curriculum and practice to prepare you in that subject. So again, it's just going to vary, and again, a great question for an admissions representative. Ms. Huggins talked about this a little bit too, but with students who've been unable to, maybe took the ACT here at RJ and maybe were not able to retake it because of circumstances that everyone's been facing this year, again, I would refer back to the information that Ms. Huggins talked about, and if that necessarily hurts your chances for admission, and again, overwhelmingly, the response has been that will not, but it's a great individual conversation to have with your counselor, your family, about deciding, if you should apply to a school with a test score or as test optional. So something to consider in that conversation with your counselor. We often get asked too about military academies. How do you get started? The best thing to do with any students who are considering military academies is to go to those academies' websites and really do some thorough reading on the process. The process is very deadline orientated. There are a lot of components. Mr. Delaney alluded to how there's often some different either requirements or amounts of letters of recommendation. There's nomination components where you're having to get public figures to send documents for you, get that nomination, and all of those different pieces along the application process have different deadlines. So we really strongly suggest, if that's something you're interested in pursuing, to go to those websites of those academies and thoroughly read through that process. And again, talk to us, your college counseling team, with any questions you have. And I would say that is something, the sooner you can get started investigating and researching, the better, just to make sure you're hitting all those deadlines. And we also get asked too, what are alternative options for students who maybe aren't interested in that traditional college path after graduation? And there, every year, are becoming more and more of these opportunities, whether that's starting out at a 2-year school or a trade school, considering co-ops, considering volunteer work and service work after graduating from high school, maybe doing a gap year employment, there are a lot of different options. So if a student or a family is questioning, I'm not sure if, once finishing these 4 years of high school, if jumping right into the next 4 years is college, let us know that. There's a lot of different organizations that help students explore what we call these gap year opportunities, or we have just different advice or connections at some of these organizations that might help you consider some of these. So again, these were just some of the questions that we cover or that we wanted to answer. We will be getting in touch with folks individually, but thank you again for filling out that survey and helping us shape this presentation. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Ms. Hall.
Hello, Ms. Hall here again. I do want to just take a minute and thank Elisa, Ms. Crapshaw, for going over a lot of those questions. You did really have some excellent questions, and there are so many topics that I'm sure wanted to cover and weren't able to cover, that we could go into more and more depth, but we want to try to keep this presentation kind of contained in terms of time. So please don't hesitate. I know Ms. Crapshaw mentioned it, but please don't hesitate to reach out to your college counselor if you have additional questions. We are happy to help. And we will be responding, like she also mentioned, we will be responding to many of your more specific questions that you asked in that survey. We do appreciate your patience with us in terms of timing. We really are going to get back to you and going to look through those and make sure we're hitting each of those questions and requests for more information. But we do want to just keep an eye on our own time. So thank you for your patience, and just thank you for your trust and willingness to work with us in these crazy times. So, all right. The next things to come, senior students, and I think we've brought this up briefly in this presentation, and at least in the times that we've been able to meet with each other before. Students, we really want you to take ownership of this, and we want you to take the reins, and we want you to be aware of and understanding of the role and the responsibilities that you have in your own college application process. This is your thing, really, students. So we are really excited to help and, of course, nudge and maybe sometimes nag a little bit in terms of making sure that you're on top of what needs to be where and when, and what information needs to be to the people that are helping and supporting you in this process. But we really are eager for you to just run with it and really take ownership of this whole experience. That said, please don't just cut your parents out of this process. I have said it in presentations before, we are all a team in terms of this and in terms of working with what you need to have done for your applications. And yes, you should be driving the process, but please communicate with your parents. They are also transitioning into a time when they are not going to maybe be as near to you because you're going to possibly be at a college across the country. And so we just really want to make sure that they feel, please help them feel comfortable and proud and excited for your future. And a lot of times that's going to take communication and openness with them to share where you're at in the process, how you're feeling, what you're thinking about, all of those kinds of things. So please, in the spirit of remaining open to growth and being loving, let's just try to give each other a little bit of grace in this process. Parents, communicate with your children as well. I know you are. I don't need to tell you how to parent. I'm not trying to tell you how to parent, but your students are going to need a little grace in this as well, as they are working through a lot of things. School changes, new things, online learning, hybrid learning, what schedule are we in, when am I supposed to be on campus? And so I'm sure a little grace is appreciated on the flip side as well. I know college counseling appreciates it too from everyone. We are giving it, we are getting it, we are all, I will say this over and over again, and you've heard it over and over again, we are all in this together. We are a team, so let's just do the best we can to support each other and make sure that we're all working for the good of the other. Seniors, we want you to schedule your senior meeting. We sent you an email via email last week. I believe it was on Thursday. So we want you to check that email, sign up for your senior meeting. There will come a time that we will likely sign you up for a meeting with us. But we want you to, again, for that ownership piece, we want you to have the opportunity to pick the time and the day, that suits best with what you've got going on with your responsibilities. There are brag sheets for you all to fill out, both students and parents. So those are going to be found in your Naviance account. Please, everyone, double check that you can log into Naviance. If you have any issues, if you haven't logged in since last spring, if you forgot your password, if something has gone amok, just let us know and we can reset those passwords for you. Parents, if you don't for some reason have access to the parent brag sheet, it's very possible that we just simply need to reopen that brag sheet for you on our end. So just a quick email, hey, can you refresh my Naviance login and open that brag sheet? That would be super great. We've talked about letters of rec. We talked about getting to know your kids. You know, you guys are you've been together in the same vicinity of each other for the last however many months. We haven't. And so we just want to be able to fill in those blanks and better understand kind of what your life has been like these last few months that we haven't been able to see or interact with you. And then use that college application guide. There was also that attachment on the email, and it might have been toward the bottom of the email, and it might have appeared as a link. Sometimes Naviance, when we send emails through Naviance, the attached documents don't show up as they normally do in Outlook or in your email program. So just scroll to the bottom of that email to see if there's a link, and it should be the RJ Senior Application Guide. On that, you're going to have all the information that you need in terms of applications, letter of recommendation requests. How do I request my transcripts? So a lot of it will be reminders, maybe from what we've even talked about in this presentation tonight. And a lot of it will just be hopefully helpful to keep you kind of on track with where you are and what needs to be done next. So check that college application guide out. We will also be using that kind of as a template to have your senior conferences with you. But we also are, there's so many things we want to get to them all too. So we're gonna just rely on you to kind of do your part and to take your responsibility and your ownership on your side of things. Please know that we're doing the same on our side of things, and let's work together to make sure that any of those extra questions or extra or just things are covered in terms of where you're at and what you need. So that really covers it for us. Here's some visuals for your senior meeting, the brag sheet and the application guide. So that's kind of what those will look like when you log in for your Calendly. The brag sheet's going to be through Naviance this year, and then your application guide is a 2-pager, so front and back, or just make sure you scroll down if you're on your computer. So this is who we are. Again, you've gotten to hear from all of us. I'm really proud of our team. I'm really excited to work with them. We're really excited to continue to work with you and get to know you. Should you need anything, this is what I traditionally end my meetings with. If you need anything, let me know. If I need anything, I will let you know. And let's just, continue the conversation and continue the communication with one another to really make sure that we feel confident and good about what's happening, what's needed, and what needs to be where. We really do care about you. We are excited for you, and we are just more than happy to continue to learn about your interests as they might continue to evolve and change in your senior year. So we are here for you. Let us know, and thank you so much for tuning in. I don't know if we should have called it college night. Some of you might be watching this in the morning, but we are, regardless of time of day, email us, contact us, let us know what we can do, and we will let you know what we need from you too. Thank you so much.